On a frosty morning, a photographer was walking through the forest. He then heard a sound that gave him chills immediately. His experience led him to an illegal trap. In this thrilling story, he faces hunters and reveals that compassion can save lives. The sun had barely risen when Sarah opened her eyes, feeling the familiar weight of anticipation in her chest. Today wasn't just any day in Austin. It was the day her life would take a completely new direction. At 35, with wavy brown hair and piercing green eyes, Sarah had dedicated the last decade of her life to a career as a corporate lawyer, but something inside her was screaming for change. She got up from the king-size bed that now seemed too big for her alone, ever since Mark, her ex-husband, had left 6 months ago. The penthouse apartment in downtown Austin, once a symbol of success, now felt like a gilded cage. Sarah walked to the balcony, observing the city awakening below, traffic already starting to build on the avenues. "It's today," she murmured to herself, a mix of anxiety and excitement in her voice. She took a quick shower and dressed carefully. A light floral dress, comfortable sandals, and a straw bag. Nothing that resembled the impeccable suits and high heels she used to wear at the office. Today, Sarah was preparing for a journey that could change everything. While having her breakfast, a cup of strong coffee and a slice of whole grain bread with avocado, her cell phone vibrated. It was a message from Beth, her best friend since college days. "Are you sure you want to do this, Sarah? It's not too late to change your mind." Sarah smiled, understanding her friend's concern. After all, it wasn't every day that someone left a successful career to pursue a childhood dream. She responded with a heart emoji and a brief text. "Never been more certain, Beth. It's now or never." With her suitcase already packed since the previous night, Sarah took one last look at the apartment. Her eyes fell on a framed photo on the bookshelf, her and Mark on their wedding day 5 years ago. For a moment, she felt a pang of doubt. Was she really doing the right thing? She shook her head, pushing away the negative thoughts. The divorce had been difficult, but necessary. Mark had never understood her desire for something more beyond the corporate life they led. "So you have everything, Sarah. Why risk it?" he used to say. But for her, having everything meant something completely different. She grabbed her suitcase and left, locking the door behind her. In the elevator, she met Mrs. Johnson, her 70-year-old neighbor, who looked at her curiously. "Business trip, dear?" asked the lady with a kind smile. Sarah hesitated for a moment before responding. "Actually, Mrs. Johnson, I'm moving. I'm going to the countryside." The lady's eyes widened in surprise. "But sweetie, what about your job? I thought you loved being a lawyer." "I did," Sarah replied with a serene smile. "But it's time to follow my heart." As she left the building, the doorman, Robert, who had known her since she moved in, helped her with the suitcase. "Have a good trip, Miss Sarah. When will you be back?" "Thank you, Robert. But this time, I don't know if I'm coming back." The taxi was already waiting. As the driver put her suitcase in the trunk, Sarah took one last look at the building that had been her home for so many years. She felt a mixture of nostalgia and relief. The trip to the bus station was silent, with Sarah lost in her thoughts. She remembered the conversation she had with her parents the week before when she announced her decision. "Honey, are you sure?" her mother had asked, concern evident in her voice. "You've built such a solid career." "Sarah, think carefully," her father added. "It's not easy to start over at 35. But she knew, deep in her heart, that this was exactly what she needed to do. Start over. At the bus station, the bustle of people coming and going brought her back to the present. She bought her ticket and headed to the boarding platform. The bus to New Hope, a small town in the Texas Hill Country, was already there, imposing and promising. As she settled into her seat, Sarah felt her phone vibrate again. It was a voice message from her boss, Mrs. Thompson. "Sarah, please reconsider. The firm needs you. I can increase your salary, offer partnership. Don't throw your career away for a whim." Sarah listened to the message twice before deleting it. It wasn't a whim, it was a calling she could no longer ignore. The bus started to move, leaving behind the city that had been her home for so long. Sarah looked out the window, watching the skyscrapers give way to more open landscapes. Her heart was beating fast, a mixture of fear and excitement. In her bag was a crumpled brochure she had kept for years. New Horizons Farm, where dreams bloom. That's where she was going. An organic flower farm that offered the opportunity to learn and work with sustainable floriculture. Since childhood, Sarah had always been fascinated by flowers. She remembered spending hours in her grandmother's small garden, learning the names of each plant, marveling at the colors and fragrances. But life had led her down a different path, until now. As the landscape changed, Sarah felt as if she was shedding layers of expectations and pressures she had carried for so long. The successful lawyer was being left behind, ahead of her an uncertain future but full of possibilities. She took a small notebook from her bag and began to write, "Dear Diary, today is the first day of the rest of my life. I don't know what awaits me in New Hope, but I know that for the first time in a long time I'm following my heart. Am I scared? Yes. But I've also never felt so alive. I've left behind a career, a failed marriage, and a life that wasn't truly mine. Ahead of me is a world of possibilities. I'm going to learn to cultivate flowers, to live in harmony with nature, and maybe to reconnect with myself. Mark would say I'm crazy, maybe I am, but I'd rather be crazy and true than sane and unhappy." Sarah closed the notebook and looked out the window. The sun was high in the sky now, bathing the fields in a warm golden light. She felt a peace she hadn't experienced in years. The bus continued its journey, taking her away from everything she knew and towards an uncertain future. But for the first time in a long time, Sarah smiled genuinely. She was ready for whatever came. Little did she know that her arrival in New Hope would trigger a series of events that would change not only her life, but that of the entire small community. The first chapter of her new life was just beginning, and the blank pages ahead promised a story full of discoveries, challenges, and perhaps a new love. The bus slowed down as it entered the limits of New Hope, a small and picturesque town nestled among verdant hills. Sarah felt her heart race as she watched the colorful houses and tree-lined streets pass by the window. It was as if she had entered another world, so different from the concrete jungle she had left behind. When she finally got off the bus, Sarah was enveloped by the fresh, fragrant countryside air. She took a deep breath, feeling invigorated. The bus station was small but welcoming, with a faded sign welcoming visitors. "First time in New Hope?" asked a friendly voice behind her. Sarah turned and found herself face to face with a middle-aged man with graying hair and a warm smile. He wore a plaid shirt and a straw hat, the perfect image of a local farmer. "Yes, it's my first time," Sarah replied, returning the smile. "I'm looking for New Horizons Farm. Do you know it?" The man laughed, his eyes twinkling. "I sure do, ma'am. I'm Tom, the owner." "You must be Sarah, the city girl who's come to learn about flowers, right?" Sarah nodded, surprised and relieved to have been greeted. "Exactly. What a coincidence to meet you here." "No coincidence at all," Tom winked. "In New Hope, news travels faster than water in the creek. Come on, let me help you with your suitcase." As they walked towards Tom's old but well-maintained pickup truck, Sarah noticed the curious glances from the local residents. Clearly, the arrival of an outsider was an event in New Hope. During the drive to the farm, Tom spoke animatedly about the town and the farm. Sarah listened attentively, charmed by the man's enthusiasm. "New Horizons Farm has been in the family for generations," Tom explained. "We started with traditional farming, but about 20 years ago, my late wife, Rose, had the idea to transform it into an organic flower farm." The mention of Rose caused a fleeting shadow to cross Tom's face. Sarah noticed but decided not to comment. When they arrived at the farm, Sarah was amazed. Fields of flowers stretched as far as the eye could see, a rainbow of colors against the blue sky. The main house was an old and charming construction with a large and welcoming porch. "Welcome to your new home, at least for now," said Tom, helping her with the suitcase. As they entered the house, they were greeted by a young woman with curly hair and tanned skin, who smiled warmly at Sarah. "This is my daughter, Lily," Tom introduced. "She takes care of the administrative side of the farm." "Nice to meet you, Sarah," exclaimed Lily, hugging her as if they were old friends. "We were so excited about your arrival. It's rare for us to have visitors from the big city around here." Sarah immediately felt welcomed by the family's hospitality. As Lily guided her to see the house, Sarah noticed several photos on the walls. One in particular caught her attention. It showed a middle-aged woman with a radiant smile in the middle of a field of sunflowers. "That's Rose, isn't it?" asked Sarah, pointing to the photo. Lily nodded, a touch of sadness in her eyes. "Yes, my mother. She was the soul of this place." "Was? She..." Left us 5 years ago, Lily replied softly. It was hard for all of us, especially for my dad. Sarah felt a pang of empathy. I'm so sorry. Lily smiled, changing the subject. Come, I'll show you your room. Tomorrow we'll start your training in the fields. Sarah's room was simple but cozy, with a window that overlooked the flower fields. As she unpacked, she couldn't help but feel that there was more to Rose's story, something that hung in the air like an unspoken secret. At night, during dinner, Sarah met other members of the farm team. There was Charlie, the foreman, a robust man with calloused hands and an encyclopedic knowledge of flowers. Emma, a young botanist passionate about research in medicinal plants, and old Mr. Tony, who took care of the greenhouse and seemed to know every inch of the property. The conversation flowed easily, with stories about the farm and the town, but Sarah couldn't help but notice how Rose's name was carefully avoided, as if it were a forbidden topic. Later, unable to sleep due to the excitement of the day, Sarah decided to take a walk around the house. The night was clear, illuminated by a full moon that bathed the fields in a silver light. As she walked, she heard voices coming from an old barn. She approached silently, her curiosity piqued. We can't keep hiding this, Dad, she heard Lily's voice, tense and worried. There's nothing to hide, Tom's voice sounded tired. Your mother is gone, and with her, her secrets. But what if someone finds out? What if Sarah— Enough, Lily, Tom interrupted abruptly. The past is buried. Let it rest. Sarah retreated, her heart beating fast. What secrets were the farm and the family keeping? And why had her name been mentioned? She returned to her room, her head spinning with questions. Her decision to come to New Hope now seemed not just a search for a new beginning, but the start of a mystery she was determined to unravel. Lying in her bed, staring at the ceiling, Sarah realized that her journey in New Hope would be much more than learning about flowers. There were secrets buried in this land, secrets that, like dormant seeds, were about to germinate. Sleep finally enveloped her, but her dreams were populated by fields of mysterious flowers and the smiling face of a woman she had never met, but whose legacy seemed to be intertwined with her own destiny. Tomorrow would be her first official day at New Horizons farm, and with the sunrise, Sarah knew that not only would a new day begin, but also her search for answers amidst the petals and thorns of New Hope. The dawn in New Hope brought with it a symphony of colors and aromas. Sarah woke up to the sound of birds singing and the soft scent of fresh flowers invading her room. For a moment she was disoriented, forgetting where she was. Then the memories of the previous day and the conversation she had overheard at night came back in full force. She got up, determined to start her first day on the farm with energy and focus. She dressed in practical clothes, jeans, boots, and a long-sleeved shirt to protect herself from the sun. As she went down to the kitchen, she found Lily preparing breakfast. Good morning, Sarah. Did you sleep well? Asked Lily with a warm smile, although Sarah could notice a slight tension in her eyes. I did, thank you, Sarah replied, deciding not to mention the conversation she had overheard. I'm eager to start. After a hearty breakfast of homemade bread, farm fruit jam, and strong coffee, Sarah followed Lily to the fields. The day was perfect, with a cloudless blue sky and a gentle breeze that made the flowers dance. We'll start with the sunflowers, Lily explained, guiding Sarah along a path between colorful fields. They were my mum's favorites. When they reached the sunflower field, Sarah was amazed. Hundreds of giant flowers rose towards the sun, their golden petals shining intensely. It's beautiful, Sarah whispered, moved. Lily smiled, a gleam of pride in her eyes. My mum used to say that sunflowers were like people, always seeking the light, no matter how dark the day might seem. The two women began to work, with Lily teaching Sarah the fundamentals of organic farming. As they worked, they chatted, and Sarah felt she was beginning to form a bond with the young woman. Lily, Sarah began hesitantly, tell me more about your mum. She seems to have been an incredible woman. Lily paused for a moment, her expression a mixture of pride and sadness. She was. Rose transformed this farm. Before her, we were just another common rural property. It was she who had the vision to transform it into an organic flower farm. It must have been quite a change, Sarah commented. It was, and not everyone supported it at first, Lily continued. My dad was skeptical. Many in town thought it was crazy. But my mom, she had a fierce determination. As Lily spoke, Sarah noticed something strange. In a distant corner of the field, there was a fenced area with different and more exuberant flowers than the others. "What's that over there?" asked Sarah, pointing to the area. Lily followed her gaze and her face paled slightly. "Oh, that? It's a special project. We're experimenting with new flower varieties there. It's nothing major," but the tone of her voice and the way she quickly averted her gaze made Sarah suspect there was more to that story. The rest of the day passed in a blur of activities. Sarah learned about irrigation, natural pest control, and harvesting techniques. She met more team members and was enchanted by the sense of community that permeated the farm. At night, exhausted but satisfied, Sarah was about to retire when she heard a commotion coming from the farm entrance. Curious, she approached the window and saw an elegant car parked, from which a man in a suit emerged, looking out of place in the rural environment. "It can't go on like this, Tom." The man's voice sounded irritated. "The investors are losing patience. If we don't see results soon, we'll have to take drastic measures." Sarah saw Tom looking smaller and older than ever, trying to calm the man. "Please, Mr. Davis, we just need more time. The research is progressing and—" "Time is money, Tom," Mr. Davis interrupted, "and we've already invested a lot of both here. You have 1 month to show concrete results, or we'll have to reconsider our partnership." With that, the man got back into the car and left, leaving a cloud of dust and tension behind. Sarah stepped back from the window, her mind spinning with questions. What research? What partnership? What was really going on at New Horizons farm? Lying in her bed that night, Sarah reflected on everything she had seen and heard. The idyllic farm she had imagined seemed to hide layers of secrets and conflicts. The mystery surrounding Rose, the fenced area in the sunflower field, the night visit from the mysterious Mr. Davis. Everything pointed to something bigger happening beneath the farm's tranquil surface. Sarah took out her diary and began to write. "Dear Diary, my first day at New Horizons farm was a roller coaster of emotions and discoveries. There is beauty here, so much beauty that it sometimes takes my breath away, but there are also secrets, whispers in the wind that carry untold stories. I came here seeking a new beginning, a connection with nature and myself. But now I find myself in the middle of a mystery that I can't ignore. Who was Rose really? What's happening in that fenced area? And what kind of pressure is the farm facing? Part of me wants to back off, focus only on the flowers and the peace I came to seek. But the lawyer in me, the one who always sought the truth, can't let this go. I feel like I'm here for a bigger reason than I initially imagined. Tomorrow will be a new day, and with it, I hope, will come new answers, and probably more questions." Sarah closed the diary and turned off the light. Outside, the wind whispered among the flowers, carrying secrets she was determined to unravel. Her heart beat with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. New Hope was proving to be much more than a simple country town, and New Horizons farm held mysteries that could change everything. With these thoughts, Sarah fell asleep, dreaming of fields of flowers that hid treasures and secrets deeply buried in their roots. The following days at New Horizons farm passed in a whirlwind of activities for Sarah. She dedicated herself to learning about organic floriculture with enthusiasm, absorbing every detail that Lily, Charlie, and the other employees shared. However, behind her genuine interest in flowers, her mind continued to spin around the mysteries she had discovered. On a sunny afternoon, while working in the lavender field, Sarah noticed Tom walking hurriedly towards the fenced area that had caught her attention days ago. Curious, she observed him discreetly over the aromatic plants. Tom unlocked the gate and entered quickly, closing it behind him. Sarah waited a few minutes before cautiously approaching. As she got close to the fence, she was stunned by what she saw. On the other side, flowers of colors and shapes she had never seen before rose majestically. Some had petals that seemed to change color as the sunlight hit them. Others emitted a soft, almost phosphorescent glow. It was as if a garden from another world had been transplanted to that small piece of the farm. "Amazing, isn't it?" A voice behind her made her jump in fright. Sarah turned and found herself face to face with Emma, the young botanist, who was observing her with a mixture of pride and apprehension. "Emma, I didn't mean to snoop," Sarah stammered, feeling like a child caught with her hand in the cookie jar. Emma sighed deeply before speaking. "It's okay, Sarah. Maybe it's time someone from outside knows what's going on here." The two women sat in the shade of a large tree, and Emma began to tell the story that had been kept secret for so long. "It all started with Rose," Emma explained. "She wasn't just an ordinary farmer. She was a brilliant botanist, graduated from UT Austin, who decided to return to her hometown and transform the family farm." Sarah listened attentively, the pieces of the puzzle starting to fit together. Rose had a revolutionary theory about flower hybridization and medicinal properties, Emma continued. "She believed she could create species that were not only beautiful, but also had potent healing properties." "The flowers in that fenced area," Sarah began. Emma nodded. "They're the result of years of research and experimentation. Some of these species have the potential to revolutionize medical treatments, but the process is slow, expensive, and, well, not always legal in the eyes of the authorities." Sarah's mind was spinning with the implications. "Is that why everything is kept secret? And who was that man, Mr. Davis, who came here the other day?" Emma seemed surprised that Sarah knew about the visit, but answered, "Mr. Davis represents a group of investors. They've been funding the research since Rose's death, but they're getting impatient for results." "And Tom? How does he feel about all this?" "Tom," Emma hesitated. "He's torn. He wants to honor his wife's legacy, but he's also worried about the financial and legal pressures. The farm is on the brink of bankruptcy, Sarah. If we can't get concrete results soon, everything Rose worked for will be lost." Sarah was silent for a moment, processing everything she had heard. Her lawyer's mind was already analyzing the legal and ethical implications of the situation. "Why are you telling me all this, Emma?" she finally asked. The young botanist smiled sadly. "Because you're not like the other visitors we've had. You genuinely care about this place and the people here, and maybe with your experience as a lawyer, you can help us find a way out of this impasse." At that moment, they heard footsteps approaching. It was Lily, who seemed to have been looking for them. "Ah, there you are!" exclaimed Lily, but then noticed the serious expression on both their faces. "What's going on?" Emma looked at Sarah, who nodded slightly. "I told her, Lily, about the special flowers, about your mother, about everything." Lily paled for a moment, but then her shoulders relaxed, as if a great weight had been lifted from them. Maybe it's good to have someone from outside knowing. Someone who can help us see things from a different perspective. The three women were silent for a moment, the weight of the shared secret hanging between them. Sarah felt an enormous responsibility fall on her shoulders. She had come to New Hope seeking a new beginning, an escape from her previous life. But now it seemed that her past as a lawyer and her new passion for flowers were about to intertwine in ways she could never have imagined. "What do you need from me?" Sarah finally asked, her voice firm and determined. Lily and Emma exchanged glances before Lily answered, "We need your help to save New Horizons Farm, Sarah. To protect my mother's legacy and, who knows, change the world with these extraordinary flowers." Sarah nodded, feeling a mixture of fear and excitement. She knew that by agreeing to help, she was getting involved in something much bigger than she had planned. But she also knew she couldn't turn her back on these people and the incredible work they were doing. "I'm in," said Sarah, her voice full of determination. "Let's save this farm and make Rose's dream come true." As the sun began to set, painting the sky with shades of pink and orange, the three women remained seated under the tree, beginning to make plans for the future of New Horizons Farm. Sarah knew the days ahead would be challenging, but for the first time since she arrived in New Hope, she felt she had found her true purpose. The mystery of the special flowers had been revealed, but it was just the beginning. Now, a new journey was about to begin, one that could change not only the fate of the farm, but potentially the future of botanical medicine. And Sarah was at the center of it all, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The days that followed the revelation of New Horizons Farm's secret were intense for Sarah. She immersed herself in the farm's financial and legal records, working late into the night to find a solution that could save Rose's legacy. On a sunny morning, Sarah was sitting on the porch of the main house surrounded by papers and her laptop, when Tom approached, his face marked with concern. "Sarah," he began, hesitant, "Lily told me that you know about everything." Sarah nodded, offering an encouraging smile. "Yes, Tom. And I want you to know that I'm here to help in any way I can." The old farmer sighed, sitting down next to her. "You know, when Rose started with this idea of medicinal flowers, I thought it was crazy. But she She had a passion that was contagious to everyone. She seems to have been an extraordinary woman, Sarah commented softly. She was, Tom smiled, his eyes shining with memories. But now with these pressures from the investors, sometimes I wonder if we shouldn't just give up, go back to being a regular farm. Sarah straightened up, feeling the importance of the moment. Tom, what you have here is incredible. We can't give up. In fact, I have some ideas that might help us. She began to explain her plan. Sarah had identified a legal loophole that could allow the farm to register its special flowers as intellectual property, protecting them from potential imitators and paving the way for partnerships with reputable research institutions. As she spoke, Sarah saw the glimmer of hope return to Tom's eyes. But their conversation was interrupted by the abrupt arrival of Charlie, the foreman, who seemed agitated. "Boss, we've got problems!" exclaimed Charlie, out of breath. "Someone broke into the restricted area during the night. Some of the plants were damaged and it looks like they stole samples." Sarah felt her blood run cold. The news was a hard blow to her newly formulated plans. Immediately, everyone headed to the fenced area, where they found Lily and Emma already inspecting the damage. "Who could have done this?" asked Lily, her voice trembling with anger and fear. Sarah observed the scene, her lawyer's mind already at work. "We need to call the police," she said firmly. "We can't," exclaimed Tom. "If the police come, they'll find out about the flowers. We could lose everything." "If we do nothing, we might lose everything anyway," argued Sarah. "But maybe there's a way to handle this internally, at least for now." In the days that followed, the tension on the farm was palpable. Sarah coordinated a discreet investigation, interviewing employees and analyzing the evidence left behind. Her suspicions soon turned to a newly hired employee who had disappeared the morning after the incident. Meanwhile, she continued to work on her plan to save the farm. She spent hours on the phone with former colleagues from the legal world, seeking advice and support. At night, sitting in her room, Sarah reflected on how drastically her life had changed in such a short time. A soft knock on her door pulled her from her thoughts. It was Lily carrying 2 cups of tea. "I thought you could use this," said Lily, handing a cup to Sarah. "Thank you," Sarah smiled, grateful for the kindness. "How are you handling all of this?" Lily sighed, sitting on the edge of the bed. "It's hard. Sometimes I feel like the weight of my mother's legacy is too much. But then I look at those flowers, see the potential they have, and I know we have to keep fighting." Sarah nodded, understanding. "You know, Lily, when I came here, I was running away from my old life. I thought leaving the law behind meant leaving behind who I was. But now I realize that all my experiences, everything I've learned, brought me here for a reason." The 2 women talked late into the night, sharing stories and fears, forging a deeper friendship amid adversity. The next morning, Sarah woke up with a new determination. She gathered everyone in the living room of the main house to present her complete plan. "But I believe we have a real chance not only to save the farm, but to realize Rose's dream on an even larger scale." She detailed her proposal, a partnership with a renowned university to conduct official research on the medicinal properties of the flowers, the creation of a foundation in Rose's name to oversee the work, and a business plan that would allow the farm to capitalize on its discoveries in an ethical and legal manner. "Folks, I know we're facing enormous challenges," she began, looking at each face in the room. "It won't be easy," Sarah concluded. "We'll have to face bureaucracy, skepticism, and probably more obstacles than we can even foresee. But if we work together, I believe we can do something truly extraordinary here." The silence that followed was broken by Tom, who slowly stood up, tears in his eyes. "Rose would be proud," he said simply, extending his hand to Sarah. "Let's make this happen." One by one, everyone in the room expressed their support for the plan. The energy on the farm changed at that moment, shifting from fear and uncertainty to a collective determination. As the group dispersed, each going to fulfill their newly assigned tasks, Sarah found herself alone with Lily again. "Do you really think we can make this work?" asked Lily, a mixture of hope and apprehension in her voice. Sarah smiled, feeling a confidence she hadn't experienced in years. "I do. It won't be easy, but together, we're stronger than any obstacle." The 2 women looked out the window at the flower fields stretching to the horizon. The sun shone brightly, as if blessing their efforts. Sarah knew the path ahead would be full of challenges. The theft of the samples was still a threat looming over them, and the impatient investors wouldn't wait forever. But for the first time since she arrived in New Hope, she truly felt at home, part of something bigger than herself. The big city lawyer who had arrived seeking peace and a new beginning now found herself at the center of a battle to save not just a farm, but potentially change the future of botanical medicine. And strangely, Sarah realized she wouldn't want to be anywhere else. With a determined sigh, she turned back to her laptop. There was a lot of work to be done, and the future of New Horizons Farm, and perhaps much more, depended on the success of their efforts. The following weeks passed in a whirlwind of activity at New Horizons Farm. Sarah, now fully immersed in her mission to save Rose's legacy, divided her time between work in the fields and endless meetings and phone calls. On a particularly busy afternoon, Sarah was sitting in the shade of an old mango tree, her laptop balanced on her knees, finalizing a proposal for a renowned university. Around her, the farm pulsed with life, the buzzing of bees, the rustling of leaves in the wind, and the distant voices of workers in the fields. "Hey, you need a break," said a familiar voice. Sarah looked up and saw Lily approaching with a jug of fresh lemonade. "Thanks," Sarah smiled, accepting a glass. "I guess I lost track of time." Lily sat down beside her, looking at the laptop screen. "How's the proposal coming along?" "Almost done," Sarah replied. "If we can get this partnership with the university, it'll be a big step towards legitimizing our research." The two women sat in silence for a moment, enjoying the view of the flowery fields in front of them. Sarah couldn't help but notice how Lily seemed more relaxed in recent days, as if a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. "You know," Lily began, breaking the silence, "when you arrived here, I thought you'd be just another visitor from the city. But now, I can't imagine the farm without you." Sarah felt a warmth rise to her face, surprised by the sincerity in Lily's words. "I can't imagine being anywhere else either," she admitted. The moment was interrupted by the sound of a car approaching. Both turned to see a white van parking near the main house. "Who could that be?" Sarah asked, intrigued. Lily stood up, a worried expression on her face. "I don't know, but we'd better go see." As they approached the van, they saw Tom coming out of the house to greet the visitors. 3 people got out of the vehicle, 2 men in suits and a middle-aged woman in a white lab coat. "Good afternoon," said the woman, extending her hand to Tom. "I'm Dr. Jennifer Anderson from the Food and Drug Administration. We're here for an unscheduled inspection." Sarah felt her heart race. An FDA inspection was the last thing they needed at that moment, especially with their research still not officialized. Tom cast a worried look at Sarah and Lily before turning back to the visitors. Of course, please come in. We'll be happy to show you our facilities." The following hours were tense. Dr. Anderson and her team meticulously went through every inch of the farm, asking detailed questions about the cultivation, harvesting, and storage processes. Sarah, using all her experience as a lawyer, closely accompanied the inspection, answering questions and ensuring that nothing compromising was revealed. When they got close to the restricted area, where the special flowers were cultivated, Sarah felt her stomach churn. But to her surprise, Tom skillfully guided them away, distracting the inspectors with a story about the traditional cultivation techniques used in another part of the farm. At the end of the day, exhausted and tense, everyone gathered in the living room of the main house. Dr. Anderson was leafing through her notes, her face unreadable. "Well," she finally began, "I must say I'm impressed with the operation you have here. Your organic cultivation practices are exemplary." A collective sigh of relief filled the room. "However," Dr. Anderson continued, and Sarah felt her heart stop, "I noticed some peculiarities in your records. There are areas of the farm that don't seem to be adequately documented." The silence that followed was deafening. Sarah knew this was the crucial moment. Everything they had worked for in recent weeks could crumble with one wrong word. It was then that she made a bold decision. "Dr. Anderson," Sarah spoke up, stepping forward, "if you'll allow me, I'd like to share something with you. Something that I believe will change your perspective on what we're doing here." Ignoring the alarmed looks from Tom and Lily, Sarah began to explain Rose's pioneering work, the ongoing research on the medicinal properties of the special flowers, and the plans for a partnership with the university. "What you're doing is extraordinary," said Dr. Anderson after hearing everything, a mixture of admiration and concern in her voice. but also extremely risky from a regulatory standpoint. That's why we're seeking to make everything official, Sarah explained. We want to do this the right way, Dr. Anderson, and we believe the potential benefit to public health is immense. There was a long moment of silence as Dr. Anderson pondered. Finally, she spoke. I'll need to report this to my superiors, but if you can secure this partnership with the university and follow all the proper protocols, I believe we can find a way to legalize and support your research. The wave of relief and hope that swept through the room was palpable. Tears shimmered in Lily's eyes, while Tom seemed to have aged and rejuvenated at the same time. After the inspector's departure, there was a moment of restrained celebration. They had overcome a major obstacle, but everyone knew the road ahead would still be challenging. That night, sitting alone on the porch, Sarah reflected on the day's events. She had risked everything by revealing the truth to Dr. Anderson, but something in her heart told her it was the right thing to do. Lily joined her, bringing 2 cups of chamomile tea. You were amazing today, said Lily, sitting down next to Sarah. You risked everything for us. Sarah smiled, accepting the cup. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm exactly where I should be, doing exactly what I should be doing. The 2 women sat in silence, watching the stars that were beginning to dot the night sky. The air was filled with the scent of flowers and the promise of a new dawn. Sarah knew the challenges were far from over. There was still the mystery of the stolen samples to solve, the partnership with the university to finalize, and countless bureaucratic obstacles ahead. But at that moment, sitting there with Lily, surrounded by the beauty and potential of New Horizons Farm, she felt truly at peace. The future was uncertain, but full of possibilities, and Sarah was ready to face each challenge, one day at a time, alongside the people who had become her new family. The months following the FDA visit were a roller coaster of emotions and challenges for everyone at New Horizons Farm. Sarah, now fully integrated into the life and mission of the farm, led efforts to transform Rose's dream into a legitimate and recognized reality. On a sunny spring morning, almost 6 months after her arrival in New Hope, Sarah stood before a packed auditorium at the University of Texas at Austin. Dressed in an elegant suit, but with a flower-shaped brooch on her lapel, a gift from Lily, she prepared to present the New Horizons Farm project to a group of scientists, investors, and government representatives. As she waited for her turn to speak, Sarah reflected on the journey that had brought her here. The theft of the samples had been resolved. The dishonest employee had been caught trying to sell the flowers to a competing pharmaceutical company. The subsequent investigation not only cleared the farm's name but also drew positive attention from researchers interested in the medicinal potential of the special flowers. The partnership with the university, which she was about to formalize, was the culmination of months of hard work, intense negotiations, and sleepless nights. But each obstacle overcome, each small victory, had strengthened not only the project, but also the bonds between everyone on the farm. And now, announced the moderator, we're pleased to introduce Dr. Sarah Alves, representing New Horizons Farm and the Rose Thompson Foundation. Sarah took a deep breath and walked to the podium. Looking at the audience, she saw familiar faces. Tom, sitting in the front row, his eyes shining with pride. Emma, the young botanist, eager to share her knowledge with the scientific community. And Lily, whose encouraging smile was like a beacon of hope. Good morning, everyone, Sarah began, her voice firm and confident. I'm here today to share with you not just a research project, but a vision of a future where nature and science work in harmony for the good of humanity. As Sarah presented the details of the project, the unique properties of the flowers developed by Rose, the promising preliminary results, and the plan for a large-scale study, she felt a wave of emotion envelop her. This wasn't just Rose's dream, it had become the dream of all of them. At the end of her presentation, the auditorium erupted in applause. Enthusiastic questions came from all sides, and Sarah could see genuine interest in the eyes of the researchers and investors present. Hours later, exhausted but exultant, Sarah found herself in the university gardens with the farm team. Lily was the first to hug her. "You were incredible," exclaimed Lily, her eyes shining with admiration and something more, something that Sarah had begun to notice in recent weeks. Tom approached, tears in his eyes. "Rose would be so proud," he said, his voice choked with emotion. "You've accomplished what she always dreamed of." "We accomplished it," Sarah gently corrected. This is the result of all our work. As they celebrated the success of the presentation, Sarah reflected on how drastically her life had changed in such a short time. The corporate lawyer who had arrived in New Hope seeking peace and a new beginning had found much more: a purpose, a family, and perhaps even love. In the weeks that followed, New Horizons Farm was transformed. With university support and new ethical investments, research flourished. New researchers joined the team, bringing fresh energy and ideas. The small town of New Hope began to gain fame as a center for innovation in green biotechnology. On a quiet afternoon almost a year after her arrival, Sarah was sitting in her favorite spot, under the old mango tree, overlooking the flower fields. Lily joined her, bringing 2 cups of tea made with herbs from the farm. "What are you thinking about?" asked Lily, sitting down next to Sarah. Sarah smiled, accepting the cup. "About how unpredictable life is. I came here looking to escape my past and ended up finding my future." Lily placed her hand over Sarah's, a gesture that had become increasingly frequent between them. "And what future do you see now?" Sarah looked into Lily's eyes, feeling her heart race. "A future here, continuing the work we started. A future with you, if you want." The kiss that followed was soft, sweet as the scent of the flowers surrounding them. When they parted, both were smiling, their foreheads touching. "I think my mum knew what she was doing when she created these magical flowers," Lily said softly. "They don't just cure diseases, they also bring people together." Sarah laughed, feeling light and complete for the first time in years. "Well then, I guess we owe Rose a thank you." As the sun set on the horizon, painting the sky with shades of pink and orange, Sarah reflected on the journey that had brought her here. From a stressed and unhappy corporate lawyer to a pioneer in botanical research, passionate about her work and the woman by her side, New Horizons Farm had become more than a place of work or research. It was a symbol of hope, of new beginnings, of dreams that bloom amidst adversity. And for Sarah, it was the home she had always sought but never known existed. As the first stars began to dot the sky, Sarah and Lily remained seated under the mango tree, hands intertwined, hearts united, ready to face any challenge the future might bring. Together they had not only saved the farm, but found each other and themselves in the process. And so, under the starry sky of New Hope, a new story of love and purpose began to bloom, as beautiful and promising as the magical flowers that surrounded them.